Hello chess fans, how to solve chess tactics. This is our topic today, and I have here a position from Paul Keres. He was called Paul II because he missed at least 5 times a World Championship match, and he was often second place in candidates and similar bad luck stuff. Okay, here with Keres we have the white pieces, and in this position I want to demonstrate how to look for solutions in puzzles or solve chess tactics, how chess tactics work. And I can say we can always or almost always go through the same steps. Okay, every position is different, but we can have a kind of algorithm, or at least use our experience and memory in addition to this. Okay, white to move here, and in a first step I think we should look for the main features of the position to get an idea what to look for, and experienced players would see here the king is not too weak, and we also have not too much firepower for an attack. But chess puzzles can end with win of material, or with checkmate, or even with an escape in a draw, or to reach a goal of strategical goal, for instance. And but we want to solve a normal puzzle here. It's not too complicated, and we say white to move and win. Okay, the main feature of this position is here this complex of weak squares. These are dark squares. Especially you don't see the dark square bishop, especially that's why these squares are very weak. And other ideas in this position are unprotected pieces, like for instance unprotected valuable pieces like this rook or even this queen. But in case of the queen, this is not so important. Here is more important that we can chase around her, and here these pieces protect each other, but at least they are passive and not so important for our puzzle. Okay, and the steps are, as I said, the first step, I look for the main features in the position to get an idea or many ideas, and then we look for forcing moves in most cases. And forcing moves are, as you may already know, all checks, captures and threats, especially threats to valuable pieces, because we want to win. Okay, we look for forcing moves, okay, and we also look for double attacks, in my opinion, because almost always double attacks are the winning moves in such positions. And Bronstein, the great grandmaster from the Soviet Union, said chess is double attack. Okay, keep that in mind. So I can summarize again, looking for the main features in the position, looking for forcing moves, threats, or in this order, checks, captures and threats. Can I check the king? Can I capture pieces? Can I threaten certain things? Can I make threats to valuable pieces or not so valuable pieces, or to the king, maybe checkmating threats or other threats? And let's look if we can combine all this. And if you want to combine all this, it certainly helps if you have stored a lot of checkmating images or other tactical pictures in your memory, in your mind. Okay, so we see the main feature here, the weakened black squares around the king, and we also see this queen in our camp, and this gives us an idea for the next forcing move. We can chase the queen around and make use of this possibility to give a garde. This is what we call a check to the queen, which is always almost as good as a check. Okay, let's do this with bishop d2, and the queen has to go. Queen a3 is forced, I think, no other squares, okay, but it's not a queen trap, that much can I say. The queen has a lot of pieces of places here, the square a6 for instance, or the square a4, okay. And the next step is how can we combine our ideas of hanging pieces, unprotected pieces, weakened squares or square complexes, and all these forcing moves like checks, captures and threats. Okay, and now it is easy. We see we can combine all these points with the move bishop to b4. Now the queen still has at least 2 squares to go for. Let's say she goes to a4, but we should see what does this bishop move do. This bishop move points to the square, the dark square e7, and this is maybe a checkmating square, because we have already our ideas to infiltrate with our queen in these weakened dark squares. And this queen not only looks for unprotected pieces, also can make a double attack in combination with a checkmating threat. And this is the solution. Bishop b4. Queen goes to a4, for instance. It doesn't matter. And now we have the final step in this combination with queen f6. And here again we see unprotected pieces, for instance, or in most important unprotected valuable pieces like this fat rock here, and also this checkmating threat. More important, on e7, and he cannot solve this problem, this double attack here. For instance, if he moves his knight to protect this checkmating square, white simply wins a whole rook, and this is a super winning position for white. So let's go to the moves again here. We have a forcing move, bishop d2. The forcing moves are so strong because the opponent always has to react and cannot do things of his own, and in this way we always keep the initiative. Okay, and the next move, also forcing again, a check to the queen, very forcing and strong move, and black still has to react, cannot do anything. And now the strong finish, the double attack, double threats of checkmate and capturing this heavy piece in the corner. This is the solution of this puzzle, and you see it's not too hard to solve such a puzzle if you look for first the main ideas and the features. In this case it was more like a positional feature, these weakened squares, and then if you look for forcing moves of the 3 categories, checks, captures and trades, and also keep in mind unprotected pieces and double attacks, which solve the majority of puzzles and tactics. These not or undefended pieces, or not sufficient defended pieces, are always also of interest. And these threats of checkmates are very powerful, of course, here. In this case on e7, and this bishop came with tempo into the game with 2 threats against the enemy's queen here. Very well done by Keres in the game, which is not a very long one. 15th move, bishop d2 here. The opponent already resigned because he saw the disaster and he had enough. Bishop d2 and Keres won this game. Okay, this is how chess tactics work in most cases. Let's look at an easier example with a weaker king, and this is in this position white to move. The main feature of this position, the very weak king. In the last example, the king had at least a lot of pawns around him, but here the pawns are splitted in isolated and double isolated pawns and very weak with open files, as you can see. And we have this as the main feature of the position, the weak king and all these files and lines and pieces who can immediately jump at the king. This is not so hard to see. If you want, you can pause the video and solve this position for yourself. And I go with you through the solution, because we look at all checks and captures and threats. We see relatively easily here the first move is the check of the rook, and this is rook b1 check. And keep in mind, it helps if we already know a lot of checkmating patterns and have stored a lot of tactical and checkmating images in our brain. Okay, and that's why we see relatively quickly if the king goes to c8, we have a checkmate with the queen on d8. That's why the king can't really go to c8, because of queen d7 checkmate. With the help of this nice and helpful knight, the king goes instead to a7. Okay, and again we look for forcing moves and checks in the first place. Okay, let's look what we have. I don't see any useful check here with the knight, because he simply takes it. Maybe it works too, but more forcing is this check. And we see it's also a kind of double attack, because the queen and the king are attacked, but in this position the combination even works if the queen is theoretically protected, because the queen has no other choice to take our queen. And this is a nice queen sacrifice, nice tactics, one of the nicest. Queen sacrifice is always beautiful, because now if he takes, we have, can you see it, the checkmate with the knight, and here comes in handy the knowledge of checkmating patterns, in this case with rook and knight. And we can also go through other lines. Let's say the king cannot move. What can we do? We can move this pawn to fight against this check. But what can we do now? Yes, of course, we can give the checkmate here, because this pawn shields our nice knight from the black queen. And what can we do else? This is nonsense, but this is also checkmate. And as I mentioned, the most beautiful variation is the pure queen sacrifice, in this case, ended with the knight checkmate on c6. Okay, we go through this position again. The main feature is the naked king here, and all these open magistrals to the king. Rook b1, the first step to bring the king in a worse position, either to c8 where we give the checkmate on d7, or to a7 where we can go further with our combination with a nice queen sacrifice, and in principle also a double attack, but it is more like a deflection. Let's deflect the queen with this sacrifice, and this nice deflection ended in a checkmate. Or if he shields with the pawn, we have same checkmate with the knight and the rook. Okay, guys, I hope these steps for solving chess puzzles or chess tactics I hope this was helpful for you and you liked this presentation. As I said, every position is different, but keep in mind all these points: the forcing moves, the three categories, checks, captures and threats. Also look for double attacks, unprotected pieces, and in a first step I always look for the main features of the position, and this gives me the idea what can I do against the king or valuable pieces, or can I combine certain features and patterns. And apropos patterns, it always helps if you have a lot of patterns stored in your mind, as I said, for instance checkmating patterns and other tricks, and in this way you often see the combinations or the solutions of the combinations very quickly or more quickly, and this is how you solve tactics in the most cases. And what also of course helps is practice, 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 and I can recommend you to solve tactics not only by tactics trainers. This is sometimes a little bit not so effective, I think, because you play over the board in real life. You should do it also with a nice tactics book where the examples are computer checked, or check it for yourself with Stockfish and similiar programs, and with a nice book and a board, a real board, and do it also over the board with a tactics or combinations collection book, and this will help also. Okay guys, I hope you liked this video, and if you want to see us in one of my next videos. Until then, bye bye.